Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Huzur says the translation of these verses is like this, that from among you those who believe and perform good deeds, then Allah Almighty has made a covenant with them that they are definitely going to be successors in the earth as Allah Almighty appointed the successors before. And for them, the religion for them which Allah Almighty chose for them, He will strengthen that faith, and also the condition, the time of fear will be changed into peace, a time of peace. They would worship me, they would not set up any partner with me, and after that, who would be ungrateful after that? So then these are the people who are disobedient. And you observe salat and pay zakat and obey the messenger so that you may be shown mercy. Huzur says that in these verses, Allah the Almighty, regarding one of His promise is mentioned, and it should be clear that Allah the Almighty has made a promise that if this happens this way, then Allah Almighty will bless you with a blessing, and that is the gift of Khilafat, as a result of which you will get the strength and power, and after the periods of fear, you will get the periods of peace. So this is a promise. It's not a prophecy. That's definitely Allah is going to do that. Allah Almighty has not mentioned that. Yes, He will give, and definitely He will give for those people who will fulfill the conditions. With this condition, this promise is there. And what are those conditions? Allah Almighty says that these people should be worshipping me and abstaining from shirk, setting up partners with Allah Almighty completely. Not only they will be worship me, but they would abstain from setting up partners with Allah. And if they are not like that, as Allah Almighty wishes them to be, so then from this promise of Allah, they won't be able to benefit fully from this promise. So therefore, Khilafat will be there, successorship will be there, but the benefit from Khilafat, they won't be able to acquire that if they are not following and fulfilling these conditions as required. From the Holy Quran, it becomes very clear to us that in the period of latter days, the Khilafat on the precept of prophethood will be there. The hadith, the sayings of the Prophet, they also tell us that Khilafat ala minhaj nubuwwat, the Khilafat on the precept of prophethood would be there, and it's going to be permanent. And the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam has also explained this point fully well for us, that after me, institution of Khilafat will be established and it will stay forever. And along with that, Allah Almighty, in these verses, Allah Almighty has explained this point to the believers, to the Muslims, that in order to benefit from this promise of Khilafat and to benefit from this great blessing, then you have to change your conditions. Only to be called Muslims and only to show your faith apparently does not entitle you to the blessing of Khilafat. So Allah the Almighty, Allah Almighty advises the believers that you should do full justice to your worship, and in order to abstain from shirk, you have to observe salat and pay zakat and also obey the messenger. Only then you will be able to get the mercy of Allah Almighty. In the obedience to the messenger, this point should be remembered, which the Holy Prophet ﷺ has told us, that the one who followed the Amir appointed by me, he actually followed me. And who disobeyed the Amir appointed by me, he actually disobeyed me. And this system of Khilafat successorship more than anything else. The Amir who is appointed by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, that is the Khalifa. So it makes very clear that the obedience to Khilafat, it is essential just in the same way as the obedience to the Holy Prophet ﷺ. But here, not that Khilafat is meant here, which is snatched by force and which is acquired with the help of the worldly leaders and masters. That Khilafat is mentioned here, which is on the precept of prophethood, on the pattern of prophethood, and regarding which the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he has made it very clear that which the Khilafat which will be established after the advent of the promised Messiah, and that would be the true Khilafat, because the Massih Maud would be the best of all the successors and coming at the end. And then this Khilafat is not going to fight, and they don't have to do injustice. Rather, they have to draw the attention to this point, that you establish the institution of prayer, and they have to draw the attention to this point, that for the propagation of religion and also to discharge the responsibilities towards fellow being, give zakat and pay attention to financial sacrifices. So this institution of Khilafat, this is only to be found in Ahmadiyya Jamaat at this time. And similarly, the obedience to messengers, one purpose is to be linked in one chain. That is only to be done through the Khilafat. Other Muslims, no doubt they offer the prayers, but because of the lack of the unity among them, their hearts are torn away. Despite having the same belief, going into the details, they are suffering from dissension and a difference between them. And those leaders for their post and for their objective, and now the ulama have acquired the political objective, they are always fighting between them. And this is the same condition of those who follow them, or those who follow them. Some time ago, when in Pakistan the dharna, these sit-ups were there, and demonstrations were being carried out, and after that the two groups of the Muslims, they picked up a dispute between them. Some on the name of Labbaik Ya Rasulullah, in order to attain their political objective, and some in the name of Khatm al-Nubuwwat. They were trying to make them popular. And the whole thing was being shown on TV. The Pakistan television showed the whole thing. And despite that, these people, those who follow these people, they do not understand the point, that who are the people they are following. Are these people will become the source of steadfastness of the religion for the general people? Are these people going to give them the right guidance? Absolutely, it can't be possible, because they themselves are corrupted. And according to the hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, in which he said that the ulama of this time will be the worst creation, they pay zakat. So then the use of that, they don't know. Although the government claims that it is given, we are spending it for the benefit of the poor people, but nobody knows. But they are, and regarding that, the news is coming on the media about the misuse of that. There is no question of propagation of Islam for them. in the name of Islam, the governments which are established, and those oil-rich countries and governments, what are they doing? Nowhere they are performing the duty of the propagation of Islam. If this job, if somebody is doing, some community is there, sacrifices, then that is only Jamaat Ahmadiyya. This institution can work only in that case when the Khilafat is in place. Some ulama, some scholars and serious-minded people, they do mention this thing, that the system of Khilafat should be there. But when you tell them that Allah the Almighty, the institution that Allah Almighty has established, then you believe in that, then they are not ready to believe in that. Rather, they always stand up in opposition. And the latest incident of that, 2 days ago, it happened in Sialkot, in the mosque there. And the mosque and the adjacent house, the police and the administration, both of them supporting there, or one can say in their leadership, the mullahs and some followers, they attacked on these places, and they did, they say it's a very good work, and for the safety of Islam, as if they did a great thing. And and this house was already sealed a few days before, and without any reason, with a rhyme and reason, there was no justification, and there was nobody there. But still, these mischief mongers, in this sealed house, under the arrangement of police, they attacked that and damaged it, and there was so many things broken there. This place, more than 100 years ago, it was there, and the house and the mosque was there. And there was no justification that it has been made right now, so we have to dismantle the minarets and destroy the house. So this is the condition of these people who are advanced in our opposition. Now they have announcing that we are going to damage other mosques as well. They are Hafiz and Qari and belonging to a political party. He's saying he is apparently Hafiz, but he is totally devoid of the spirit of the teaching of the Holy Quran. And they had to remain like that because these people, they have denied the person who was sent by Allah Almighty, Khatamul Khulafa, when they are advancing in his opposition. So then they would become completely empty from the teachings of the Holy Quran. The apparent words they might have committed to memory. But in order to understand the teaching of the Holy Quran, their minds are locked up. And this is also a penalty and a punishment from God, that they cannot understand the true thing. Yes, so far as the disorder and the fighting is concerned, in this matter their minds are very fertile, and they can create disorder and killing as much as required, and so many new things they invent. So we cannot confront these people in these matters. So anyway, this is your condition of the mullahs. In the mosque, they speak against them, make statements against that, and they plan the conspiracies, and they also destroy the sanctity of their own mosque, and also in our mosque, which are purely made for the worship of Allah Almighty. These people, they seal and lock these, and then they attack and damage, and they also spoil the sanctity of these places. This is the result of their own vested interest, and preferring that interest over the requirement of religion. And as long as these people, according to the prophecy of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, they do not believe in that Khilafat which has been established by Allah, they would continue to do like that. And we cannot hope anything good coming from these people. We cannot have any expectation and hope from these people. Yes, there are some right-minded people. Senate, one lady, very courageously, she expressed the concern on that, and she rejected that one. So now you see that these mullahs and mullah-minded people and these politicians, what do they do to that lady? So far we have seen that these people, they chase the right-minded people so much that either they have to go back on their words or seek the apology. So far as our sentiments are concerned, that they have damaged one thing which was a reminder of the time of the promised Messiah ﷺ, and they have captured that. So our response is always as it is, and this response should always be with us. Innama ashku bassi wa huzni ilallah. That certainly all my grief and anguish and this plea of that I simply presented to my Allah, to my Lord. Although we are so emotionally we are connected with that, but the best expression of best relationship with the promised Messiah is not with the respect of his teaching, but actually in following the teaching that he has given us. And after that, the institution of Khilafat, it is linked with the believing in that. And it is linked with those things which Allah Almighty has mentioned, told us in order to get benefit from the institution of Khilafat. We have to raise the standards of our worship and to follow the commandments of Allah Almighty. And also raising the standard of our obedience. And for that purpose, we have to work hard. Hadhrat Massih Maud once somebody asked him a question once, that what is the purpose of the advent of a Khalifa? The promised Messiah ﷺ, the reply that he gave, that is, should be kept in mind in front of us. The promised Messiah said that reformation. This is the purpose. And then he explained as well. And he said that since the time of Hadhrat Adam, the start of this generation was there. And after some time, when the condition of human beings became very weak, and from the true purpose and the true purpose of believing the Quran, they went far away from that. Then Allah Almighty by His sheer grace, through a messenger, Allah Almighty guided the people to the right and took them out of the pit of destruction. And Allah's glorious position showed the manifestation. And like the light, there was a light of guidance, and the faith was given that light, and that faith was completely enlightened. And this says that this has been the tradition going on for all the time from Allah Almighty, from Hadhrat Adam to the Holy Prophet ﷺ. We have seen the same thing. And he said, and this is the tradition of Allah Almighty, that after the lapse of some time, when people forget the teaching of a prophet and the right path and the light of guidance, they lose. And the darkness and disorder, the complete pitch darkness is there. Then the attributes of Allah Almighty, they are quickened. And then through a great person, the name of Allah Almighty and the unity of Allah and the good morals, once again, they are established through the total perception of Allah Almighty. Through thousands of signs, these things are shown to the people. And this happens that this understanding which is lost and the purity which is gone, once again it is established. So the Muslims have lost this faith, and non-Muslims as well. So therefore, in this age, Allah Almighty, according to the prophecy of the Holy Prophet, He has sent the Khatmul Khulafa, and He has been established. And then as a result of that, there is a big revolution brought about. And this is a point worthy to be listened carefully. And according to this old tradition, this dispensation is established like that. So the establishment of the Jamaat Ahmadiyya is for this purpose, that very glaring proofs of the existence of God should be shown, and unity of Allah should be established, morals should be established. Once again, as we see that the majority of the Muslims, the practical condition is very weak. They worship the graves, set up partners with Allah and innovations. They are suffering from that, and bad things are very common. Vices are there, and they believe, they admit, and columns are written on this subject. But as I said, the one who has been appointed in this subordination to the Holy Prophet ﷺ for the guidance and to take the people out of the pit of misguidance, these people are not ready to believe in him. In hidden shirk, they are suffering from that, and there is no trace of good morals in them. But the promised Messiah ﷺ, the last sentence, which as I said earlier on, that this should always be making us absolutely alert, that according to this old tradition of Allah Almighty, this dispensation of us, the community, has been established, which when there is a darkness and misguidance everywhere, and or morals are lost, and people forget the unity and setting up partners with there, then at that time Allah Almighty sends someone of His beloved who renews the religion. Revival of the religion takes place from as anew. So by believing in the promised Messiah, if we are not creating these changes in us, so then this would be a matter of great concern. We should always, we have to scrutinize ourselves and analyze our attitude, that with the Khilafat, the bounties which are attached with the Khilafat, and those things which Allah Almighty advised in relation to the prophethood, according to that, whether we are trying to mold our life according to that or not. What are the standards? We have to see that our worships, how the worship is there, and our establishment of the institution of prayer, how much is that? And in every action and in statement, is it devoid of set partnership with Allah Almighty? What is the standard of our financial sacrifices? What are the standards of obedience? All these things we have to see. Whether Allah and His Messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as He wishes, are we trying to, or have we got those standards or not? Have we achieved those standards or not? And then, in this age, the promised Messiah ﷺ, the standard on which he expected the followers of his community, and he wanted to wish the people to be having that standard, are we trying to achieve to that high standard or not? This thing regarding the regularity about the prayers, there is a statement of the Holy Prophet ﷺ in Hadith. It is mentioned, Hadhrat Abu Hurairah Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu says that the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that on the Day of Judgment, the very first question about which the account will be taken from the people, that is the worship, the prayers. And if the one is successful there, then he is a successful person. And if this account is weak or defective, or not up to mark, or it is bad, then a person would be disaster, and he is a lost person. And if there is a weakness in his obligatory prayer, then Allah Almighty will say that, look, this servant of mine might have said certain optional prayers, so then deficiency of the obligatory prayer will be fulfilled like that. Similarly, other things will be checked and scrutinized. So this is the importance of the prayers. Nowadays, because of Ramadan, People are paying more attention, all of them. They are paying attention and they are coming to the mosque. They are coming. But it should not be only in the month of Ramadan. Allah Almighty will not ask only regarding the prayers during the month of Ramadan. Rather, the account of the prayers throughout the life would be asked. So it's a matter of concern. It should be a matter of concern that Allah Almighty on His servants, He is showing so many blessings upon them. He said that if there is a shortcoming in the obligatory prayer because of human weaknesses, sometimes there is up and down in the human nature, sometimes he is unable to do full justice. So Allah Almighty says that through the optional prayer which a person might have offered in the prayer, then the shortcoming of the obligatory prayer will be made up for that. And then in one narration it is said, Hadhrat Jabir Razillah Talano relates that I heard the Holy Prophet ﷺ say that if somebody abandons the prayer, then it brings the person very close to setting up partners with Allah Almighty. Shirk is something, is such a crime which Allah Almighty very strongly dislikes. Allah Almighty does not forgive that. Is it possible that after committing such a crime, we can get the blessings of Allah Almighty or the blessings of Khilafat? Certainly not. How the prayer is to be offered, the reality of that, and what is the true standard of that. Mentioning that, the promised Messiah ﷺ says that some people, they go to the mosque and offer the prayers and other articles of faith they abide by, but the help of Allah Almighty and succor is not with them, and their morals and attitude, there is no change in that. And the people who offer the prayer, their morals should also be good, and there should be a pious change in that, which indicates that these people, they are offering the prayer in a ceremonial way. There is not much reality in that, because after performing the divine commandments, that is like a seed, and the result of that should be on the body and the soul of the person. There is the effect of the seed should be on the soul, just as the seed when it sprouts and there is a plant coming out of that. Similarly, our spirit and our body and our apparent morals, the result of that should be seen. The result of the prayer should be seen in that. A person who irrigates a field and very hard work, he sows the seed. If for a couple of months the green tree does not come up, so then one should think. Anguri means that if the seed does not germinate and it does not come out, and from the seed, if does not shoot out of that. So this is the condition of the worship. If a person believes Allah Almighty to be absolutely one without I explained the word Anguri in this way, that those who translate, they sometimes come to me that we have used certain word which we don't understand. If a person believes Allah Almighty to be one without any partner, observe prayers and observe the fasting and all the commandments of Allah Almighty, he explains as much as possible, but there is not much help given to him by Allah. So then we have to believe that the seed was wrong. So this is a point which we always have to keep in mind. The worship and the standard of our moral, from the standard of that, we have to attain, we have to recognize our closeness with Allah Almighty. If we are close, then the prayers are benefiting. And if our apparent condition is not improving, then Allah and the nearness of Allah Almighty is not obtainable, and there is no benefit of the prayers. Then the promised Messiah ﷺ says that what is the prayer? And he says that it is a prayer, tasbih and tahmeed and taqdees and istighfar, seeking the prayer, and which is offered supplication with great anguish and pain. So then, not like those people who are unmindful of the reality of the prayer, you should not be unnecessarily strict with Arabic words, because Arabic is not your mother tongue. So those people who do not know that language, so they should not simply stick to these Arabic words. So then that condition is not created which is in the heart of a person who knows the meaning, because their prayer and their worship is simply a ceremony, and there is no reality with that. So apart from the Holy Quran, which is the word of Allah Almighty, and apart from the prayers given by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, apart from that the prayers of the Holy Quran and the prayers of Hadith, you do recite and understand the meaning, and so that you can find out the reality of that. They must be recited. But apart from that, many people have made their own prayers, or they memorized other prayers. So he said that in all other prayers, then you have to use those humble words in your own mother tongue, and use that, so that this modesty and humbleness that you show, that should affect your heart. And then he says the prayer is such a thing that through this prayer, the heaven comes close to the person. It comes closer to the person. Allah Almighty comes closer to the person. Those who do justice to the prayer, he thinks that as if I am very close to death, and his soul melts in the way of Allah Almighty. And in that house where such a prayer is offered, in the house, that house will never be destroyed. In Hadith it is mentioned that if at the time of Nuh there was the prayer, then that nation would not have been destroyed. And he says Hajj is also conditional for people. There are certain conditions, and without it is not obligatory upon all. And the fasting is also conditional. The sick and the travel on journey people, they do not, and the people on journey, they can offer later on. But sometimes these people are sick permanently, they cannot observe the fasting is also conditional. Zakat is also conditional. Those people who have the money, they have to pay. But the prayer is not conditional. It is other things are once in a year. But the commandment of prayer, it is 5 times a day, and this is the commandment. And therefore, unless the prayer is not offered fully, then those blessings cannot be attained in full, which are possible to be attained. And nor this type of unless the prayer is not full, then those blessings will not be there. So then those, and moreover, and he said that there is no benefit of such a bath which you have done at my hand. So therefore, this is that standard which we have to try to attain. That Allah the Almighty says that you abstain from shirk, setting up partners with Allah. And in one narration it is mentioned that the Holy Prophet ﷺ was afraid that my followers may not be committing that. In one regarding Saddad bin Aus, he was asked about that he was crying. He was asked, why are you crying? He said that I have remembered something which I heard from the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and I started crying. I have heard the Holy Prophet ﷺ say, he used to say that regarding my ummah, my followers, regarding the setting up of partners and hidden desires, I am afraid of that. And the narrator says that I said, O Prophet of Allah, your followers are going to do this sort of things? The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, yes. But the people, they would not worship the sun and the moon or the statues. They would not worship. But in their actions, they will be showing off. There will be deception, and artificiality will be there. And their hidden desires will be there. And if there is in a state of fasting, if he gets up in the morning and then there is a desire, then he would go for that thing and disregard the fast. And last time I mentioned one incident that people somehow have the fast for the father and the mother, and at the midday they go to the hotel and have the phone, and then come for iftari in the evening, as if they are the greatest people of observing the fast. And the newspapers here in this country, they mentioned in one of the article, as I mentioned last time. So this moment is really a moment of great worry, and we have to scrutinize ourselves in all sincerity. There are various examples of hidden type of shirk will be there. Our prayers, sometimes they are we leave it because following other wishful desires, and the fasting as well, because of the worldly requirements and excuses. Because of that we leave it. I met a young person met me, and he said, because I do a business and that's related to pizza, and I have to taste pizza, therefore I don't observe the fast, I leave some of the fasting. So one can only say Inna Lillah on this, that we, despite being an Ahmadi, we should be doing something like that. When I listened to him, whether he realized it or not, but by listening to such thing, I always feel very sorry about this thing. I feel ashamed of that. They claim to get the blessings of Allah Almighty, but they are going away from the commandments of Allah. So then this claim is totally wrong. Hadhrat Massih says that Allah Almighty has mentioned in the Holy Quran, وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ, that Allah Almighty forgives all the sins, and this is the gist of that which is mentioned there. But Allah Almighty will not forgive the setting up of partners, shirk. That is not going to never get close to shirk. And take it as a forbidden tree. When we are talking of setting up our partners, he said that the unity of Allah does not mean that through words you say La ilaha illallah, no one worthy of worship, and in the hearts you have got thousands of statues, idols. But anybody through his action, through his behavior, attitude and deception, and if he gives that importance just as the greatness of Allah, or depends on somebody as one should depend on Allah, or he gives the importance to oneself, his own self, as it should be given to Allah Almighty, in all such situations he is an idol worshipper. So this is the explanation of that saying of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Worshipper is idol is not those which are made of gold or stone, or anything, or any action, or any statement which is given that sanctity and importance which is due to Allah. That in the sight of Allah is like a object of worship. So very minutely we have to analyze ourselves. And for the people who have got the blessings, the zakat and the financial sacrifice is very essential. In hadith it is mentioned, Ibn Masud Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, he narrates that the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that apart from two things, one should not feel envy of that. One is the one who has been given the wealth, and he has spent all of it in the way of Allah. And secondly, that person who has been given the wisdom and intellect and knowledge by Allah Almighty, through which he decides between the matter and also teaches the same knowledge to other people. Imam Hassan mentions that the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that your wealth, you secure that by paying the zakat, and also treat your sick people by zakat and by sadaqah, by charity, by financial sacrifice. So the attention has been drawn to that. And those people who are it is obligatory, they have to pay zakat. But those who do not have to pay zakat, but they should pay attention to sadaqat, and the needy people and the poor people take care of them. And in that while the help of the needy people, he has drawn the attention to that. It was very important. He has also pointed out to create the unity, because the zakat and the that can be best utilized under the institution of Khilafat, under the Nizam-e-Jamaat, the institution of Jamaat, in which the people who are needy and poor people, we have the facilities are provided to those people, and we can definitely can do that. And all the Jamaats should take care of this point, that they should normally those needy people there, the lists are sent to the Khalifa of the time, and the information from various places is there. Some people write about that. Some people, they write about themselves. According to that, the administration is asked to use that money over there. That's why in Africa and other poor countries, the Jamaat gives as far as possible according to their finances. They provide the facilities to those people, and the facility of treatment and education are given, and regarding food as well, the help is given to them. And the majority of the Muslims, I know that with great concern for the help of their poor brothers and members, they do help other people, and that is what creates the unity and the wahdat among them. And regarding the this relationship, Hadhrat Promised Messiah ﷺ says that the people, they show their yearning, and their soul melts in prayer, and the result is that they just turn away their face and attention to absurd things. When the prayers are offered dedicatedly, and they are delivered from this filthy life, and the love of this world is taken away, and the love of Allah is created in their hearts, and the result of that is zakate failun, that they spend in the way of Allah Almighty. When they disregard the absurdities, then they are mindful of the prayers. Then the result is, if they are rich people, then they spend in the way of Allah Almighty. And he said that this is the result of that is whom anil lagwe morizun, that they turn away from useless vain things. And the result of that is that these people are reminded of financial sacrifice, because when the love of the world will be no longer there, then the result would be that they would be spending in the way of Allah. Even if there are big, huge treasures are there, but they would not care, and they would not be desisting from spending in the way of Allah. There are so many thousands of people who do not pay zakat, so much so that very poor people of their company, they get destroyed, but they do not care for those people. While Allah Almighty, Allah Almighty has instructed that zakat should be paid on everything, on the jewelry, and on the jewels it is not. And all these people, they are duty bound to calculate their savings and earning, and whatever they have saved, after a certain time they have to work out if they have to pay. And then that is why Allah Almighty says, Anil lagwe morizun, that this condition will be created among them when they will pay zakat. When they will pay zakat, then they will be able to abstain from vain things, and they will get more dedication in their prayers, and then as a result they will abstain from vain things. And when they do so, they will be paid more attention to financial sacrifices. And so all these things are interrelated. So he says, in other words, to pay zakat is the result of avoiding and going away from the vain things. The prayer draws the attention to abstain from vain, and abstaining from vain things, that it takes a person to the worship. And then the attention is drawn that the worship the wealth should not be used on unlawful things. Rather, it should be spent in the way of Allah. So therefore, he has also drawn the conclusion that by spending in the way of Allah Almighty, it enables a person from so many vain and useless things. And then Allah Almighty, for those people who have been given the gift of Khilafat, that they should also raise the standard of obedience. In one hadith it is mentioned, Hadhrat Ibadah Razillah Ta'ala Anhu, he relates this one, that we did the bayat at the end of the Holy Prophet, that we will listen and we will obey, whether we like it or dislike it. And wherever we may be, we will not fight from someone who deserves something, and we will always establish on the truth, on the right thing. And in matters of Allah, we will not care the attitude of anybody against us. And if the institution of Khilafat is there, and again it is mentioned regarding Khilafat as well. In hadith it is mentioned, Hadhrat Abu Hurairah Razillah Ta'ala Anhu relates that the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that hardship and affluence and happiness and sorrow, and whether the rights are given or rights are not given, in every condition you have to listen to the command of the ruler and to follow that. It is essential. This point regarding obedience, mentioning Hadhrat Massih Maud says that Allah the Almighty and His Messenger, you and the kings, you follow them, show obedience. It is such a thing that if you follow it truly, then there is a light and there is a pleasure in your soul, and there is no need of hard types of worship, as it is the obedience is required. But this is the condition, that obedience should be true, and this is something a bit difficult, and we have to sacrifice your wishful desires, and without that you cannot do the obedience. And this wishful thinking of a person and desire is such thing which can become like a statue in the heart of many people. If selfish desires are there, they become like statues and idols. And the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them, they were so much blessed with Allah Almighty, and how much they were dedicated in the obedience of Allah Almighty. This is the true, and this is true that no nation can be called a nation unless if the unity, the spirit of unity and oneness is not there, unless they get this, if they have this unity in them, and if these people are divided and they are split into groups, then they will degrade and they will not be able to make any progress. Regarding Muslims, he said the reasons of the decline of the Muslim was there were so many other reasons as well. But if they leave their difference of opinion and they obey one and about whom the obedience has been commanded, then then Allah Almighty will have His hand over this community which is united, and that is the secret. Allah Almighty loves Tawheed, and this unity cannot be established unless you obey. The Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, during his time, the companions, they were very people of great opinion, and Allah Almighty made them like that. So they were very well versed in matters of ruling in ruling. And when Hadhrat Umar Radiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu and other companions, when they became caliph and they got the authorities and the states, so then the way they looked after the affairs of the government, that shows that they had a very special quality of being of sound decision and opinion. And their condition was that wherever the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, all their opinions and their wisdom and thoughts, they considered it as insignificant. And whatever was said by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, that was taken as worthy of obedience. So their condition in the lost of the obedience, they used to seek blessing from the leftover of the water after the wuzu. And they sought blessing in the obedience. If they did not have this faculty of obedience, and everybody considered his own opinion as best, then they would have been divided. Then they would not have been able to get such high status. I said, the difference between Shia and Sunni, that can be solved. This point is quite enough, that the companions, there was no division among them. There was nothing like that, because all their progress and advancement, they clearly indicate that they were all united, and they were not fighting against one another. And some people say that the Islam was spread with sword. But I say this is not right. The fact of the matter, that the veins of the heart, they are filled with the sentiments of obedience. And this was the result of the unity, that they conquered the other hearts. This is my belief, that that sword which they had to take, that was only for their self-defense and protection. Otherwise, even if they had not taken the sword, they could have won the country by the good morals and that advice which comes from the heart, that definitely affects the hearts of other people. They accepted a reality and truth, and then accepted it truly, and there was no artificiality and show off in that, and their truth was the result of it was the cause of their success. A true person always uses this truth as the sword. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ and the whole face of the Holy Prophet ﷺ had all the grandeur of the beauty and the impact, and he used to attract the attention of the people. And then in his community, the quality of the obedience to the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and such an example was shown there, which was extraordinary. Anyone who saw them, he would come automatically. And this type of obedience is needed even today, because Allah Almighty has appointed this community, which is being created by the hand of the promised Messiah, al-Islam. Allah Almighty has connected this community with the community of the community created by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And the progress of the community is through these examples of these people. So therefore, the progress of the community is through the example of these people who wholly and purely they mold their according to that and show the high standard of obedience. So therefore, you who are the member of the community of the promised Messiah, and you have the desire to be connected with the people of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, show the obedience, and obedience and the mutual love should be like that, as they have, and acquire everything which the companions had. So now he was addressing and saying this thing to the companions at that time. But if the progress of the community has to be maintained all the time, and you have to work hard to perpetuate this blessing of Khilafat, so then these examples have to be maintained perpetually and continuously. Only then those progresses will be there which were attained earlier on. So these are those standards which are very essential to get the blessing from the blessings of Allah Almighty. We have to raise the standard of obedience and the standard of prayer, and in every action we have to make it absolutely pure from all types of shirk, and we have to spend our wealth in the way of Allah, and also the loyalty and obedience to Khilafat and the standards, highest standards should be maintained all the time. Only then we will be able to get the blessing of Khilafat and all the blessings which are attached with the institution of Khilafat. And till the end of the time, till the day of resurrection, we can be connected with this blessing, and we can keep our progeny like that. And regarding this perpetual Khilafat, the promised Messiah ﷺ says that for you it is very essential to see the second manifestation, and it's good to have the second manifestation because it is eternal, and this will not be severed until the day of judgment. And that second manifestation cannot come until I go, but when I go, then Allah Almighty will send the second manifestation to you. and Allah Almighty will send this second manifestation for you. It will remain with you all the time, as Allah Almighty has given the promise in Ibrahim Ahmadiyya in the book. And that promise is not for regarding myself, rather it is related to you. As Allah Almighty says that Allah Almighty says that this community which is with you, I will give them the preference and dominance upon the opponents. So the day of my departure would come, and after that the day of the perpetual promise will come. Allah Almighty is true in His promises, and He is going to show you everything whatever He has promised. If these days are the last days of the world, and so many trials are there which are descending, but it is important then this word should remain until all the things are fulfilled which Allah Almighty told us. I came as a manifestation of the divine power as from Allah Almighty, and I am a personified manifestation of Allah, and there are going to be other people who would be the manifestation of the second manifestation of Allah. So Allah Almighty has given this blessing, and for the last nearly 110 years we are seeing the manifestation of this blessing and the promises given to the promised Messiah. We are being these promises being fulfilled. Allah Almighty give it this blessing to all who has come under the initiation of the promise. Enable them, Allah Almighty enable everyone, that these instructions, keeping all these instructions defined, and the blessings of the Khilafat, they should continue to benefit from the blessings of Khilafat. The last week I requested prayer for Pakistan, and I say once again, particularly the Ahmadis in Pakistan, they should pay attention to the prayer in their prayers, obligatory and nawafil, and they should be increased in number. Allah Almighty enable all of us to do so.